didn't even know where I was going. But then when they told me, you're going to fly in the back seat of an F-16, and there's some that have just the single cockpit and some with the back seat, which they call that one the family model. And so they said that anytime somebody's in the back, there's like 11 things that you have to know if you're in the back. And so we got to train you. And so I got trained all day by this kid whose call sign was coma. Not very comforting, you know. And he timed me on stuff, and they taught me how to, you know, you get the oxygen, and they gave me my G suit and my flight suit and taught me how to use all the stuff. And they kept saying to me, now, should you feel ill? Now, if you feel queasy, they kept saying that, you know, which nobody ever came out and said, you're just going to croak up there. They kept alluding to it. Now, if you feel a little out of sorts. I met my pilot. His name was soju, which is some kind of Korean liquor, which has got to be a story there somewhere, I'm thinking. And his wingman was Zod. And so soju and Zod, they kept telling them, and I heard them in another room saying to soju, don't make him sick. Do not make him sick. Because they said he's got to talk 20 minutes after he lands, and he's got to actually be able to stand up. Don't make him sick. Now, to me, they never said. To me, they kept saying, oh, now, if you feel queasy, they put a little plastic bag here, you know, if you feel queasy. They made me practice taking my mask off. They timed me. Taking my mask, the oxygen mask, and they communicated. They timed it because they said, you don't dare throw up in that. The ground crew will hate your guts if you. Yeah, and so they timed me. You know, I'd take it off and get my bag up. But I knew I was going to be okay because I live on the Gulf Coast and we fish out in the Gulf. And I'm out there in 6-foot seas sometimes. I'm just not susceptible to motion sickness. And so I knew I was going to be okay. But I'm smart enough. I didn't want to wave the red flag in front of the bull. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say, oh, you're not going to make me sick. I wasn't about to do that. So, oh, yeah, well. So the day came that it was the first time I had been alone with soju at all, was the day we're walking across the flight line to the F-16s, and they didn't put munitions on mine. On the one I was in, they didn't hang it with missiles or anything because of something about me being in it, I guess, civilian. And so, but they said Zod's fully loaded, and if something comes up at us, Zod will take care of them. Good for Zod. So we're walking across the flight line, and, you know, we got all our stuff and our helmets and our hoses, and you're walking across there dragging. So it's the first time we were alone, and so Soju said to me, he said, sir, he said, I know what they've told us about keeping it smooth, but ultimately this is your flight. Do you want it smooth when we're up there, or do you want to play? And I said, oh, play. And he said, I thought so. So they took off. They did what they call a static takeoff. They had two of them together, and they go straight up. And man, it was like, it was unbelievable. It's kind of scary at first. I was kind of scared at first. But then they did this for a while, and they go, it's called a bank and yank. There's up there. Because in a regular plane, if you bank it, that's how you turn it. But in an F-16, you bank it and it'll keep going straight. So then bank it and yank it. And then they do it together. It was unbelievable. But I calmed down, when they did that a little bit. And so at one point, Soju says, 4 o'clock, sir, look at 4 o'clock. And so I look up, he says, Zod coming up at 4 o'clock. Sure enough, he's coming up here, and he gets up right beside us. And man, he puts the wings. You know how you watch the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels and you think, oh, they're not that close together? That's an optical illusion. No, it's not either. He put his wings right next to and he's like, I'm looking across at him. He's as close to me as I am to you. And he's doing this to show me how close he is. And I'm looking over and he's like laughing hysterically. And I'm thinking, why is Zod laughing? And then I realized it's because my eyeballs are coming out, And he flipped underneath us, and when he flipped underneath us, then he does it on this side. And they gave me a tape of the flight later. And you can hear me on there when he flipped underneath us going, oh my God! But then Soju says to me, he says, sir, would you like to experience an aileron roll? And I said, sure. I didn't even really know what that was, right? And so he said, all right, here we go. And he went, and then he flipped underneath us, and 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 he flipp And he's turning that thing upside down, right side up, upside down, right side. And he does that 6 or 7 times. And when he comes out of that, I went, uh-oh. I mean, I had that hot sweat coming out in my mouth and that cold one coming down, right? And I reached back here and I skipped 50% and 75%. I went right to 100% oxygen. I turned and I'm sucking it down and I hear it and he's going, "Are you okay, sir? You okay, sir? Sir, you okay back there?" And I'm sucking it down. And I finally said, "Soji, I'll be right back." So I did. It was awful. It was awful.